All right, Louise, Rachel, and Tabitha, take it away.
Okay, so our visit was at Bravefoot with Dale Fletcher's class. It was a class of kindergartners. It was the same class we did our 6-minute PE rotations with.
Ooh.
She had a class of 21 students, but there were a few aways when we were there. So one day I think there was like 17, and the next day there was 19 kids. They did have a set of iPads at the school, but we still brought ours just to make sure that the app was on there and everything was set up. They hadn't used technology in their classroom before, so this was the first time, and Miss Fletcher was super excited about it. She wanted us to focus on capital letters and numbers 1 through 5. The first day we did capital letters and the numbers, and then the second day we did just the letters. The letters that the class had learned previous to our class was P, U, O, M, X, D, and A.
Make a word out of that.
We chose 2 applications to focus on the task, letter school and letter writing, both of which help the children learn fundamentals of writing the letter and using their fine motor skills with their fingers.
So these apps really helped with the vocabulary learning. At the end of the letter writing app, there would be a puzzle for the students to put together, depending on what the letter they were working on was. It also improved their handwriting skills, as well as hand-eye coordination. And here's a little tutorial. That would be step 1 right up here. So it draws it for you, starting from the top down, the other side down, and across. And then step 2, there's still some pointers. And step 3, it's more of a freestyle, so the children draw it themselves. And here's a puzzle, and it points out that that's an airplane, so that helps the students really remember what the letter is. And this is for letter school, so it's essentially the same thing. You would tap and trace it, and then write it as well.
Okay, so our plan to support the teacher, once we met with Dale, we realized that our biggest kind of hurdle that we had to overcome was kind of her own discomfort with technology. And like Tabitha mentioned, they actually did have a class set of iPads. They had never used them before. I don't think she even knew how to turn them on. So basically us going in there with apps to show the class was brand new to all of them. So we actually used the document camera that she had in class. That's kind of her one piece of technology that she was comfortable using. And we used that to show the teacher and the students how to access and use the apps. It was super easy, and what I really liked about it was that some kids were so proficient they were moving on to new letters, and some kids were just practicing like a couple letters. So I liked that it was, you know, good for the kids at any level that they were at. And description of what happened, I think the one challenge that we encountered was probably the noise level of having all the apps on at one time. But it was good in some ways because we did want to hear the kids to hear the pronunciation of the letters as they were writing them. Michaela gave us a great suggestion of using headphones next time, so the kids could have still been listening to it while using it. But ultimately we thought that both visits went really well. The kids really enjoyed it. The teacher was pretty thrilled with it. So yeah, I'd say that it was really helpful to reinforce some of the skills they already had, and plus introduce some new ones as well.
So after our second visit, we had an interview with Dale. We just asked her a couple of questions, and she absolutely loved the apps. If she had 21 iPads available, if they had the app on there, I think she would use them all the time. But again, I don't know if she would know how to download the apps onto each iPad, and I don't know if she was too technologically.
That gets done for them, but it's a
Okay.
system for how to do that.
Incorporating the document camera made it really great for the students to just look up at one spot on the wall, and it was like all the iPad, and I was working on the iPad. They knew exactly where to click, and they knew exactly how to form the letters or the numbers. She really liked the apps that we chose. She found that they were very age appropriate, and she said the biggest challenge for her is finding activities that are age appropriate for a 5-year-old. She also mentioned that having the 4 of us, she has a PDP student teacher right now, and herself was awesome because every kid got positive reinforcement and help whenever they needed it, even she did mention that some of the letters were taught differently on the app than she teaches in class, which can be confusing for a 5-year-old when they're just learning the alphabet. But other than that, she had just great things to say about us being there and the apps that we chose. This assignment that we did, I would say substituted pencil and papers for iPads. So instead of just them sitting there drawing letters and different numbers, they were able to kind of play a game. Like the letter writing had these funny chipmunks that they attracted, like it would steal the letter and then you had to draw it to prove that you could get it back from the chipmunk. And it was a game and they loved it. And there was bright colors and some music and fun visuals, and it was really engaging for all the students. And I think it was a great alternative to just sitting there writing letters and numbers. To enhance learning, we could have found maybe some more complex apps. I was very surprised at how quick they caught on to everything, and some kids did just kind of focus on a couple letters, but others were just jumping through the whole alphabet, and I was really impressed with that. Yeah, just more of a variety would have made it a little bit easier for us to kind of make the lesson even longer, because I felt like within 10 or so minutes we were like, ooh, maybe we should have brought a couple other apps students with us.
Cool, thank you. Some questions for this group.
Would you say students worked mostly independently, or were they doing the app and turning to friends and chatting?
They were just like glued onto that.
Competitive.
Maybe a little bit, like they were thinking about which letters they were on.
I
Like,
did-
oh, I've already done that one.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny, but
But we
they all
were
had their
working
own,
on
which
it.
was awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
they didn't have to share them or anything, so
Yeah.
it was nice.
When you said it was hard to find age-appropriate apps, do you mean that most of them were too young or too?
That's a good question. She didn't really specify. She just kind of enforced that she was so happy that we found something age appropriate. So I feel like it could be either way. Like maybe some apps would be way too easy and some would be a little bit challenging.
And maybe just her lack of experience with technology too was a little bit, problem, but yeah.
A con that she said for the apps was that they could move through all the letters, so it was like you couldn't really control what letter a kid was on, because they would just like scroll through and pick one.
Right.
So it wasn't like this class we're going to focus on A, because the whole alphabet was there and it was so tempting for them to do other letters.
Yeah, that's true.
So that was probably a challenge, or would be a challenge if you were trying to teach one letter.
Does the app provide any feedback for the teacher? Like once the kids completed, is there anything for the teacher to track the child's progress? Or
They had like stars on the ones that the kids did, so if she wanted, she could go around and see. I think that was on the letter
Letter
one.
school, yeah.
Yeah, she could go around and see like which ones had stars, but
And to get
That
that
would be
started,
taking
you just
a
had to
long time.
practice and get
Yeah.
through that level.
totally.
So it'd be good if there was a way of registering the app or logging in as a student to do what Ula's saying, because then that would be easy then to track, right? 'Cause- so other apps might have that. This was a free app, but now you're starting to see, okay, this is what someone might charge as a service. But if you're doing report cards and things like that, this would generate basically evidence of progress, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
The letter school was the free version, and it only gave you A, B, C, D, and E, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it said click here to buy the next one. So I imagine that would have the full alphabet, and you could see the levels that they were getting for all of them.
So that's going to be the issue, right? They're going to make something really good, and then you got to pay for it.
taste.
Yeah, totally. The other one gave
Right.
us all the letters, so which was nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said it removed the idea of paper and pencil, but when students actually are required to either type on the computer or write it on paper and pencil, you don't use your finger to type it in. Is there a way that you could have those little iPad pencils and write these letters?
That's
so
a really
they're
good point. I think that would be
accessible
really
and
helpful. Yeah, because then you'd have kind of like the best of all worlds. I don't know if those apps would work with those. I don't know if we checked, but
Yeah, Miss
that's a
Fletcher
really
was
good
actually
point.
pretty happy with them using their fingers to use their fine motor skills and just know the basics of the letters too. So, but yeah, the next step would probably be like using a stylus or something.
Yeah, totally.
But now you're thinking great because you don't combine, right? Combine other different apps, but also maybe, doing it on the app and then doing it on paper with some paint, right? And then going back to the app and seeing if your letter that you write is got better because you've been on the app,
Yeah.
right? So that you're going back and forth between physical and technology, right? So those two things. So you can start imagining a sequence now. But the interesting thing you said, Tabitha, and this is a break, right? They're going to be on different letters. So suddenly your class of 21 kids is not all doing the same thing at the same time, which we know is not right.
A
Right?
lot of them were doing the letters in their name. And I remember one kid named Owen was doing that, and I asked him what he was doing, and he's like, oh, I'm just spelling my name. He was really good at it because that's probably the first word he learned how to spell.
Yeah, my grandkids, that's the first thing they wrote.
Totally.
Then they got to grandpa. Right, but that's what we want them to do, right? Do what they really want to do, rather than everybody do the same letters at the same time, because
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
after it would be like, okay, well you've done this group of letters, and would you like, what one did you find hardest? And then they would say like W or O, and it would be like, okay, we'll go and practice that one. So each kid, it was like, if someone found a T hard to do, then they could go and practice that more. Whereas if someone found an X hard, they could go and practice that one. So it gave kind of a difference in what kids got and what they could work on personally, which I thought was quite good.
great. Any other questions for this group? Thanks very much. Great start.